Love after loss? Are your friends trying to push you towards getting re-engaged again? And you don't have the energy. Maybe you're afraid. I know the territory. I led partner loss support groups at hospice for over 5 years, not to mention my own divorce from my first husband. You feel really disoriented for a long time. Maybe you don't know who you are anymore. You feel hopeless at times. And maybe if you lost your husband or your spouse, you feel guilty if you even think about getting involved in love again. Maybe you're afraid you're going to get hurt again. You're going to lose again. You're going to have to be a caregiver again. And so the idea of loss seems daunting. The idea of love seems daunting. The idea of loss is daunting. The idea of loss again is daunting. And you hold back. Maybe you don't even want to leave the house. Love is a spiritual practice. When you get involved with another person, you grow yourself, or don't, but it's an opportunity to grow yourself in ways that you cannot do by yourself. It brings up all the old stuff that you haven't dealt with before. It all comes back. That's why it's a good idea to do some serious grieving before you start again. How do you know when you're ready? Is it when you start to notice the opposite sex? Well, after my first marriage broke up, I was right there. I wanted to get back into the game right away. I was only in my 30s, and so that seemed doable. It would be much harder later in life, although I didn't get into a significant relationship for another 13, 14 years. It took me a long time to actually really get committed, but to get involved again, to have that approval, to reconfirm that I was valuable or attractive on the relationship market was really important to me. So you might want to do that. And you know what? It's okay to play around, to try things out. Maybe your friends are pushing you to meet with somebody. It helps to think about it as a long-term process, like preparing for a marathon, that you're not going to meet the love of your life right after loss, that it's progressive, successive practices of finding who works for you and who doesn't, rediscovering yourself in love. Maybe you know that it's time to get involved again because you start having erotic dreams. You start having urges. You start watching romance movies to fill that empty space. These are all signs that maybe it's time to put your little foot in the water, just a little bit, and try things out. And the first time you're probably going to say, whoa, no. One of the first things that happens is that you might compare the new person you're spending time with your past spouse, whether it was a divorce or it was a breakup or it was a death. There's this comparison. It's natural. You don't want to get involved deeply in a new relationship before you've released all the grief. I had a friend who did that, and she was in this little, hamster circle, running around, spinning on a wheel, going from relationship to relationship to relationship, because the need to bond was compelling her to jump in too soon, to expect connection too soon. You need to give it time. You need to give yourself time. And if the relationship you're in makes you feel like you have to hide your grief, that is a really good sign that it's not time yet, that you need more work to do. Sometimes I have found that people who are grieving will get themselves involved with somebody else who is grieving, and that allows you some space for grieving. It sometimes is a distraction. It's a way to circumvent the grief. It doesn't go away though. It just waits until the next time around. I like to think of grief as a gateway, as an opportunity to really discover who you are. So you have to remember a few things, and then I'm going to tell you the number one secret. One is that the body is wired to bond. So if you're having erotic dreams, or you're starting to notice the opposite sex, or you're starting to have longings, that's natural. And you might need to sublimate those urges at first and see if that works. The old cold shower, or self-pleasure, or going out with friends just to get out into the world. That's really a first step. Hugs from friends. Remember that when you lose a close relationship, you lose the oxytocin that goes with that. So you want to make sure that you get those hits of oxytocin. And hugging is a really good way to do that. So I hope that you all have lots of huggy friends to hold you and close. Not these, half-second hug and release, but really let yourself get into that, to feel that. That's what you need. Animal companions are really great. Dogs, cats, they intuitively know that you're grieving, and they're there for you if you let them be there. And I know some people decide that that's enough. Well, why not? It's unconditional love. Relationships with people is complicated. Yesterday when I did my Facebook Live, I did talk about why. And one of the reasons that I've already mentioned is it's a spiritual practice. It's a personal development practice. You change in ways that you can't do alone when you're involved with somebody. So the number one key, the number one way to open yourself to love is to love yourself. What does that mean? What does it mean to love yourself? Some of us may not even know what loving ourselves is because we spend all our time going out into the world and trying to draw love to us. But loving yourself is what you need to do so that you're not running on empty. You're not in that place of lack. You're not in that place of desperation. However, if you were never loved as a child, or didn't feel loved, or did not feel acknowledged for who you truly are, then you might not know how to love yourself. You might have to rediscover love for yourself. You may have to rediscover who you are. Grieving and the aftermath of loss is a great time to explore those feelings, to uncover who you really are without anybody telling you how you should be. Now, at first that might seem overwhelming, like being in a department store that has too many choices. Think of it as an adventure, an opportunity to find out what you like and what you don't like. Kind of like going into a candy store or a chocolate store and looking at all the possibilities and noticing which one really excites you the most. So that's the process. Love yourself. Have a lot of compassion, a lot of patience. It takes time. If it's been a few years, you may want to get some help. You may want to get some guidance. If you haven't found it on your own, it might help to have some input, some outside ideas. As Einstein has been noted to say, you cannot solve the problem from the place where it was created. You have to step outside of that area. And oftentimes, when you have gotten adapted to your grief, adapted to that feeling of misery, it can be difficult to re-engage in life and re-engage in love. So I want you to think for a moment, how could you love yourself? What would love mean? And if you can't think about how you love yourself, how would you love somebody else? How would you express love? I think there's somewhere online the 5 ways people love, and there's a tool that you can take a quiz that finds out what you prefer as a way to love or to feel loved, and to really explore who you are, what you like. And when you learn how to fill yourself up, then you'll be able to move back into the arena of romance and relationships. Oh, so there's one more, and that is spirituality. Spirituality is a really great way to get in touch with self-love. It's a higher love. That is ultimately what romantic love is all about. That is that longing for that larger love. But be aware that spiritual love can oftentimes be a bypass. It feels so great. It's such a relief from the feeling of despair and loss that it becomes a substitute for relationships. And you don't really deal with the wounding and the emotions of grief. That's certainly what happened to me when my first husband left me. Is after I jumped into a relationship, which was very limited because I was not ready. I just wanted to have that affirmation that I was lovable, that I was still attractive. But it was a limited relationship. And interestingly, he was also going through a rebound. I think there's, Kate Wolf has a song called Some Kinds of Love, and some kinds of love are too soon. And after a significant loss, you will go through some relationships that are too soon, that they are not right, but they help to train you to get back onto the path of love and relationships. What else do I? Oh, so another way to ignite love in yourself is through service. Service, yes. There was a movie called Motherland. I don't know if you can find it. It's mixed up with all kinds of other things on Google. But there was this documentary about these women who had lost their children through violence or suicide, some pretty heavy-duty things. And the documentarian took them to South Africa, where they spent time with orphanages, where these children had lost their parents. And that actually reconnected them with life because they felt filled. So that's what loving yourself is about feeling filled in the heart again. And when you feel full, when you feel confident, when you feel strong in yourself, that's when it's time to go out and open to love, to the romantic love. So let me review. There may be resistance. You may be afraid to get hurt again, or you may feel guilt. If you were very close to your spouse, you may feel guilt about moving on and letting go of that grief. You may lack energy. So when you start to love yourself, you actually uplift your energy. You actually feel more energized when you are good to yourself, when you take care of yourself. In addition, you want to remember that your body has its own agenda. It wants you to rebond, and you have to be aware of that, that it will send you out signals that are probably way too soon. Mother Nature was not concerned about your heart, it was only concerned about bonding. So you want to let your heart judge and feel. You want to allow your emotions, and you want to watch your mind. What thoughts come up? Those thoughts of comparison. Do you compare this new person with the person that you lost? Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but just to be aware of how that person is doing in that comparison. I've often told people after grief, after loss, when they are starting to go out and connect with the world, that it may take 5 or 6 people to replace the love of your life. People who will be intellectually stimulating, people who will be consoling, people who will be physically active, that at first it will take, maybe people who will do handyman things for you. It will take many, many different people to replace the person that you lost. But over time, you eventually can find the person that you were really meant to connect with. Hi there, thanks for joining us. We're talking about the number one secret to rekindling love in your life after loss. So please feel free to post a comment or hit a like. Thank you. Bye. Finally, how do you rekindle love in yourself? How do you love yourself? Especially if you have not been taught how to love yourself, you may need to find out what you like. Have an adventure to find out what it is you like. Spirituality is a way, and service. Those are 3 really, really good ways to fill up your love bucket. That's all I have for today. I hope you found this helpful. If you would like further conversation with me, I offer a complimentary 15 to 20-minute introductory phone call for you to find out how I work with clients, to see if we're a match, see how we can rekindle love and life in your life after loss. There is a link over in the comments section, and also a link to my website if you would like to check that out as well. That's it for today. Be brilliant, and bye for now.